On the streets,
we go to bed empty hunger.
To the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's law.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media, and now is born Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things that makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
Well, it's the start of a new week, and once again, we welcome you to broadcast right here on Voice of the People Television. I am Moses Humphrey, welcoming you on board. Now, today, okay, I think I should introduce myself afresh. Today, I am Moses Mauto Kojo Humphrey. Yes, proud to be a Ghanaian. Proud to have the Ghanaian blood in me. Oh, well, we will be talking about Ghana's elections and the admittance of defeat by one of the contestants in the election. We'll talk about that in the course of the program. Well, I'm definitely not alone. I have the team with me. Good morning, guys.
All right, Moses, it's good to know that you are Ghanaian Nigerian or Nigerian Ghanaian. So
Well,
how does it go?
It's the same, isn't it? It's the same.
It's the same thing.
Yes, Nigerian, Ghanaian. I'm just a blend of the two.
Okay, and good things are happening in Ghana.
Good things are happening, things that I can be proud of.
Oh, well, good morning and thanks for joining us. I am Chukwuma Okoro. Away from what's going on in Ghana, the results are yet to be formally declared. But the vice president, who ran as a candidate of the NPP has already conceded, to John Dramani Mahama. It's a good thing. And we have our president that has congratulated him. Atiku has congratulated him. Even our INEC chairman said, look, Ghana did so well because they copied from us. Quite interesting. Anyway, away from that, we hear that American military veterans of Igbo descent, in faraway United States, have called on governors in the Southeast to please not jeopardize that Nnamdi Kanu's release will not jeopardize their presidential ambition in 2027. And I keep asking the question, what gives people the impression that, look, that certain governors or that a particular governor, it's the one holding in Nnamdi Kanu? People say that, look, the president wants to release him, but someone is asking him not to do so. And isn't that a dent on the credibility of the president? If the president is so pliable, so amenable to this person or to these people, when it comes to the case of Nnamdi Kanu, why doesn't the president listen to these people when they talk about infrastructural decay and the exclusion of the Southeast in the commanding heights of Nigeria's national life? Oh, well, these are the topics we have today. But like Moses said, we are not alone. Inclusivity is the thing, and we have FINA.
All right, good morning, Chukuma. Good morning, Moses. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Nigeria. I'm Fina. Yes. Okay, Chuku. Those were the major topic of conversation we have on our table this morning. But, Chukuma, you're asking how possible could that be that someone or people's interest can, make the president to, work the way he wants to work. And I will let you understand that politics, they say, is a game of interest. You never can tell whose interest, sways another. But we have other interesting trending stories that made it to the social media banner yesterday. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has vowed to ensure that bad Nigerians face the full wrath of the law. Tinubu warned that bad actors, whether within or outside Nigeria, would be brought to justice. The president, represented by the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Rabadu, spoke at the graduation ceremony for the Executive Intelligence Management Course 17 at the National Institute for Security Studies in Abuja. That happened on Saturday. He reaffirmed his administration's commitment to ensuring security and stability in the country. Now, with this assertion from the presidency, do you still think that some people are there to make the president not to do the needful or to do what he should do for the betterment of Nigerians?
You know, the thing about leadership is this. The buck stops at someone's table, and in this case, it is the president.
President's table.
Exactly.
So if some people, if a certain governor is asking the president not to release Nnamdi Kanu because he has his eyes on the vice presidency, I mean, that same person should also tell the president, look, the roads to the east are bad. Anyway, like within the week, I traveled to the east. You know, I didn't use the air like some people do, some bourgeois do, you know. So I used the roads. So I use the roads. And it's quite interesting to understand that between here, from Lagos to the Lagos-Ibadan, by the time you cut off, you know, from the interchange that connects you to Shagamu, you know, the other side of the express, that road is terribly bad. The whole of Ogun State to Ondo, to parts of Ondo, quite unpassable. Very bad. I had to like spend 13 hours from Lagos to Enugu.
13 hours? 13
good hours from Lagos to Enugu. The roads are terribly bad. From Ore to Bini, you use one lane. It's a dual carriageway. At one point, you use one lane. At another point, at no point will you see the two roads being used simultaneously by road users. So you have to either divert at one point and re-divert at another point. And you see tippers, trailers, you know, trucks tipping, you know, because of the bad roads.
But those roads have constantly been under construction.
There's no, at this point, the FEMA is not there. You can't see any construction that is ongoing. But from Bini, from Ore to Bini is bad, you know, it's manageable. Yes. Then from Bini to Asaba is very good. And that's the point where you call the Bini bypass, it's no longer a bypass. You spend close to 1 hour within that bypass. So what makes it a bypass? Why don't you just use Bini inside and continue with the journey?
Your journey.
You know, so
it's unfortunate, and that's what a lot of people will have to go through this time of the year, as people will be moving from one place to another.
And so if people are telling the president what to do, they should also tell him to fix the roads. And the president, if he's listening to them by keeping in Nnamdi Kanu, Mr. President, please listen to them when they ask you to fix the roads. And it's a bit curious that we cannot maintain our internal roads, and we are spending so much money to construct a new Lagos-Calabar coastal highway. I'm not saying it is not good, but why don't you also place emphasis on the ones that we are already using? The artery roads, can you imagine a whole of Ogun State, you know, that is more like an industrial hub in the southwest too, doesn't have good roads? And we are doing Badagry to Sokoto in the same breath. We cannot fix Kaduna.
It's interesting your point.
If you actually, you say something about the Lagos-Calabar Expressway not being a bad idea, and that of Badagry to Sokoto not being a bad idea. But at this point in time, I can also say that it's more like majoring on the minor and minor on the major. Because I believe that
exactly the point.
If all the roads that we have already are working and playable, believe me, we wouldn't even think about that of you know, having other ones. But anyway, moving away from that particular story. A quite interesting one again is that the major opposition parties in the country have blamed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the National Assembly over the controversy trailing the freezing of the National Social Investment Program Agency's account. And this happened on Tuesday, where the House of Representatives called on the federal government to instruct the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, to unfreeze the NSIPA account within 72 hours due to the agency's role in combating hunger and poverty. Meanwhile, Nigerian workers at the forum accuses NLC, TUC of paying lip service to suffering masses, allowing Tinubu-led administration, you know, free hand on anti-poor policies. Interestingly, some people are saying, I'm making this to be a vow. I'm going to, you know, squash anyone who is kind of doing bad to Nigeria, be it within the country, out of the country. And then some other persons are saying, no, I think it's high time we freeze an account, even when this particular account will freeze because of some misconduct or, you know, financial misconduct that happened or play out there. Also in the federal government, or the federal workers now, are also accusing Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress.
But I think it's long. This accusation is long overdue. Nigerians have been murmuring on the side as to the activities of NLC and TUC. They don't seem to be truly representing the interest of the people here, because Nigerian workers are not being paid. If you look at the calculation of how they got to the minimum wage of 70,000 naira, you will see that ultimately what gets to the workers, the increment that gets to the workers, is around 40,000 naira. By the time you start doing the step-by-step calculation, what gets to the federal worker is around 40,000 naira. Now, there are wage award for about, I think, 5 months. 5 months,
Yeah, 5 months
that have not been paid. Now, salaries, in some MDAs, salaries of November pay has not been disbursed. So, people are going into the Yuletide, biting their fingernails, wondering how they will get money to do the needful. And you know how things are in Nigeria. Once it gets to December, in fact, once it gets to the middle of November, things become extra expensive, and then there's the Christmas rush. So by the time monies will come, maybe by the 15th or thereabouts, the prices of things will be, off the roof. And then where will these people, how will they be able to celebrate Christmas?
The painful part of it.
With smiles on their faces. Now, I had to look up, a few things just to refresh my memory. We understand that when the president was the governor of Lagos State, he owed. Salaries were being owed. Yes, salaries were being owed, largely being owed. In fact, I wish I can put this up. Where Oshomole was talking about how he compelled the president to pay a little above the minimum wage of 5,000 naira at the time. Oh yes, it sounds like small money now, but then it was substantial at the time. Well, it was still small anyway. 5,000. That was around 2,000. It was
between 99 and 2000.
Yes, 2004.
2007.
Okay, yeah. It was really small, but he was compelled. And I know I've spoken to a lot of workers, all right, that have complained. So when they were talking about the president replicating what he did in Lagos at the federal level, a lot of these, senior Nigerians that I spoke to are like, look, they were being owed. So I am not surprised the salaries are not exactly being paid like it should.
Moses, when you talk about replicating what he did in Lagos, and this is the same.
No. I know there's argument as to whether he actually did or did not do.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I want to align with that thought, with that perspective, that if what he's doing now is essentially what he did in Lagos.
Essentially
what he did in Lagos. But I'm not surprised, because we saw this particular government saying that, look, we are going to continue from where Muhammad Buhari stopped. And there's nothing different, But it's quite unfortunate that, look, the Social Trust Insurance Fund, has gone down in that. I think it's shrouded in corruption and all of that. If the account had been frozen, I think I understand for like 5-6 months or thereabout, something should have been done, like to conduct an inquest to find out what actually happened, because that particular fund is meant for a particular purpose. So if you put that purpose down for like 6 months, people's lives are affected. So it's a good call that the National Assembly, has risen to this challenge. But my worry is the National Assembly, it's more like a resolution. The president is more like an advisory. Does he have to obey them?
Anyway, if the reason they shut down that particular, let's say agency is the fact that they have mismanagement of the fund, being entrusted in their care, I think it's nice one. It's an interesting one, because the money is supposed to be for hungry Nigerians, those who are indigent and all that. But it's like some people are also taking advantage of that to mismanage their money. And away from that story, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention on Sunday allayed fears over the newly detected COVID-19 Z variant reportedly in circulation in Australia. The National COVID-19 Technical Working Group continues to monitor and conduct analysis of surveillance data, both internationally and across the country, to guide public health response activities. We're supposed to have join us though virtually, a medical doctor to help, chime in on this. We have Dr. Paul Kushamiju, who is a public health physician. We need him to give us insight, to this particular one, given the fact that this is a Yalta season, a whole lot of persons want to come home to celebrate the Christmas with their family members. And, as the case may be, imagine when we'll have to be scared again about another variant of COVID-19, the ZEG variant. It broke
I would like to hear from the doctor himself this morning, because the position of a lot of individuals concerning COVID has continued to come up, has continued to be something for conversation. Some have said, look, it was just a gimmick, it was just a ploy to keep people in check. It was, one thing.
Because I lost two people.
I'm saying what some people have said.
Yeah, I lost two
some people have said,
and it's painful.
Okay. Well, people have said different things. Some have said, yes, it's just a gimmick. It never existed. Some have said, yes, it existed. Some have said it was generated from labs and pushed out there to control population. We've had different angles to it. Well, I do understand that we have Dr. Paul Kushamiju joining us right now. We'd like for you to unmute your microphone so we can hear you. Good morning to you, Dr. Paul.
How are you doing? Can you hear
Yes,
very well?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Good morning once again. Oh, well, we're talking about COVID-19. It's coming up in 2024. Variants have, evolved over the years. Should we be worried, especially at this time of the year? We understand that COVID actually, was spread around this time of the year from 2019 up until 2020, when Nigeria got its own fair share of it by coming from an individual who came into the country. So what should we be worried about at this time? What should Nigerians know, especially as it concerns this new COVID variant?
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning once again. Just as the first COVID-19 virus that we had, it will be very important for Nigerians to be very cautious, especially we know that Nigerians travel a lot. And so when we get to countries that we know these variants are more predominant in, we should be very, very cautious. And I don't know if any of you have traveled recently. You still see people wearing face masks while traveling because people are just being cautious, especially the Chinese, wherever they go. They're wearing face masks, some in the US, some in Britain. So everybody's just being very cautious, knowing that there are still variants out there, so nobody wants to catch it. So Nigerians should be very cautious wherever they go, even if they're going to countries that don't have these variants, but somebody can easily bring it in from wherever they're coming in from. So it just means we just need to have a very high level of hygiene and be very cautious what you touch. Make sure you still clean your hands or wash your hands after touching anything. And wherever you are, if you do see someone that's coughing or having the symptoms of COVID-19, as we know, you should just be very, very cautious. Eat well, drink healthy water, and just make sure that your immunity is built up very well so that you would not, because you know that these diseases won't even catch you easily except your immunity is low. So you've got to also build up.
So it's basically the same symptoms that were presented in 2019. Nothing, there's no...
The very same type of symptoms.
Okay. All right. Dr. Paul, talking about caution, how much responsibility should the NCDC take at this moment? Will it be appropriate to shut the borders, the airspace or what, just to prevent some kind of, Nigeria having to grapple with another variant, And I understand that this XEC is even more potent, more latent than the one that happened in 2019, 2020. How much responsibility should the NCDC take at this point?
Okay. Well, concerning the borders, I would say NDDC needs to just be on hyper alert. They might not need to shut the borders because right now, a lot of countries really knowing what they went through COVID-19 and feeling that their countries lost money, economy is going down, nobody wants to go back to the part of shortened borders. So, but they need to be on high alert, meaning their emergency protocols are all in place, making sure that they have the health people right at every border, checking everyone. For example, recently I went through, I think, Addis Ababa, and you will see that they have at their borders, as you come down from the plane, they have this health distance. They're checking everybody's health for everything. They're scanning people just to see if any high temperature or any. We need to have all these things highly in place. And these are things in which they're not no expense, because all this is to protect your citizens, even foreigners. It might not be a Nigerian that brings it in. We have foreigners that fly into Nigeria, Abuja, and Lagos every single day. So it could be a foreign. So you need to just make sure that all health emergency protocols are high alert. Everyone is checking, and this should not just even be to COVID-19, because it could be because when COVID came into Nigeria, we were not expecting it. So they need to always these is what helps us better as a country, to make sure that we're trying to protect our citizens at all costs. We are making sure that health, but you see the problem with Nigeria is COVID-19 now comes as a pandemic, or there's something that happens, the emergency protocols go on high risk, everybody's checking it, then when the news goes down, everything else goes down.
Right there.
And then anything can come into the country again.
Are you saying now that we have to look at money and not people and life that matters? Because if you say that the border should not be shut, you also know that if the world had taken it to be a health emergency when it broke out in Wuhan in China, it wouldn't have been a world pandemic. Dr. Paul.
Now, what happened? Yes, in China, before China, it's been a long time the world has ever had a pandemic of that magnitude. Now, initially, yes, if they had initially maybe put it, because it came to WHO took a long time to try to put it because they said they were consistently monitoring the numbers, and they didn't feel it was time to really put it into the pandemic stage until they felt, if maybe at that time they had been more proactive to when they felt, no, let's call this, but really, when it came into Nigeria, you see the thing about when things come in, even in pandemics, epidemics, and different things, once your health protocols are in place and are very on a high alert, when things come into countries like that, you can do you know how many monkeypox came into Nigeria? But you see how people went into the NDCC, went into hospital, talking to doctors and how they should spot it and different things, and people were curtailed. They were able to keep those things in check. All right. But you can't shut down an entire border of a country for years.
Thank you very much. Just to
put a little correction on what you said, this variant is not more severe. It's a different kind of it's a mutation of two separate variants that were done in the US, that came in the US, didn't come into Africa, were in the US. So it's not more severe than the other variants, but the thing is that if you've ever had COVID, the other one before, you can still get this one because it's a different variant, but still causes about the same symptoms. So WHO says, no, it's not, it's more severe one. It's just as the other COVID-19, this, and you still have the same congestions, the respiratory distresses, and different other things.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you this morning. I guess we'll just have to continue washing our hands and wearing face masks around. Well, thank you very much once again. Now let's move on to the newspapers. Now let's look at stories that made it to the cover pages of the dailies. Now straight on to the Punch newspaper. The banner headline here reads, Nigeria, neighbors begin offensive against new terror group. DHQ vows to block security gaps as Nigeria, Chad, Niger hold joint military operation. Tax reform. Akume plays down northern opposition as Senate meets AGF. Trump plans mass deportation, end to birthright citizenship. Tinubu others congratulate Mahama as opposition clinches Ghana presidency. And then we also have Syrian rebels oust Assad and 60-year family rule. Excuse me. Well, these are the headlines from the Punch newspaper.
On the cover page of Vanguard newspaper this morning, the stories you'll find there are: the banner headline is How Non-Appointment of Ambassadors is Hurting Nigeria. That is coming from Envoys. Right after that story, bilateral agreements, MOUs face hiccups. Embassies operate without ambassadors for 15 months. Tinubu gets list. May announce nominees this week. Why experienced, credible people must be appointed. That is coming from ex-ambassador. The story is on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. And the window headlines are, any threat to Nigeria's security, internal or external, will face justice. That is coming from NSA. Marketers may lift petrol from Port Harcourt refinery this week. Ipman. Why Naira is in massive recovery race across all markets. That is coming from bankers. And we have a major pictorial there from the sacking of al-Assad in Syria. And beside that pictorial, Tinubu hails Mahama after Ghana's presidential poll win. The story is on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. NIN modification. Nigerians narrate bitter experiences as banks, NMIC, trade blames. I will take that again for clarity purposes. NIN modification. Nigerians narrate bitter experiences as banks, NIMC, trade blames. The story is on page 21 of Vanguard newspaper. Tax reform bills. Senate committee meets with AGF tomorrow, seats today. Other stories you find when you flip through the pages of Vanguard newspaper are multiple taxes, raw issues, vandalism, stifling teleco sector. That is coming from Atcon. Fair hike, Keyamo, FCCPC at war over airpeace. EFCC intensifies investigation of NFF. And that is from the sports segment. And those are the stories you'll find on the cover page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
Now, up next is the Guardian newspaper with the banner headline, Tax Reform Bills. States eye 180% hike in VAT earnings amid push for fiscal federalism. Then there's an infograph there. Guardian has a way of playing with information with graphs. You know, it says VAT growth trend since increased to 7.5%. Scenario mapping for VAT reforms, 2024 growth and all of that. We also have other stories. Measure tax bills impact on human rights. Sarah tells NAS. That story is on page 7. Funding weak political will, bedeviling varsity system. I'll check that again for clarity. Funding weak political will, bedeviling varsity system. That story is on page 8. Stakeholders stack states on 2030 family planning target. You can find that story on page 38 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, you have failed workers, labor group, flares NLC to UC. That story is on page 8. NCDC tells health facilities to intensify checks for SARS-CoV-2 variant. You can find that story on page 7. Now, Ghana's electoral process inspired by Nigeria, says INEC. Let me take that again for emphasis. Ghana's electoral process inspired by Nigeria, says INEC. That's Mahmoud Yakubu, our own INEC chairman. That story is on page 4. Minister, operators, FCCPC bicker over failure pricing regulatory rights. I'll check that again. Minister, operators, FCCPC bicker over airfare pricing regulatory rights. That story is on page 6 of the Guardian. I have the bottom strip, legal tender, and uneasy path to transition from old to new notes. And that's all from the Guardian newspaper.
All right, well, that's all we'll be doing right now from the papers. At 9 o'clock, we'll go into the papers, more in-depth. That's from 9 to 10, a newspaper review. In the meantime, let's look at elections in Ghana. What are the lessons? Who copied who? Who learned from who? Did Ghanaians learn from Nigeria? Should Nigeria learn from Ghana? Oh, well. We're talking about election results coming out about 24 hours in Ghana, and that of Nigeria coming out 4 days after elections. Interesting lessons to learn from both elections. Well, let's talk about this one when we come back from this break.
From the views on the street
We go to bed empty hunger.
to the blaring horns of a hustling city. The loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's law.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people. From the views on the street,
We go to bed.
All right, thanks for joining us again. Now let's get into the conversation, all right? Ghana's former president, John Dramani Mahama, has won the presidential election after Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia conceded defeat. Bawumia acknowledged the people's call for change and in the new Patriotic Party's two-term rule marked by economic challenges. Well, Mahama, who led Ghana from 2012 to 2016, actually, confirmed receiving Bawumia's congratulatory call. The opposition, National Democratic Congress, NDC, also secured a parliamentary victory. Well, in his concession speech, Bawumia emphasized the importance of maintaining peace and investor confidence in Ghana's democracy. However, the election was marred by a few violence. It was not to be compared in what has been found in some other parts of Africa. Well, there was a report that one person was shot and another wounded at a polling station. One person shot, another person wounded. Well, I don't think you can call that being marred by violence. And that happened in the Yankpala region. Well, despite this, INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has praised Ghana's electoral process for its stability and innovation. And he has said that Ghanaians learned a few things from Nigeria, which they used during the election. Well, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, has also extended his congratulations to Mahama, the former, and also former Vice President Atiku Abubakar sent his congratulations. Well, we have joining us in the studio, we have Barrister Darlington Agumwa, who is, of course, here as a political analyst, and Akin Fatunke, who is a communications consultant and an arbitrator. All right. And he's also a public affairs commentator. Gentlemen, good morning to you this morning.
Good morning, Moses.
A beautiful Monday morning
Good morning.
it is.
Fina and Okra, how are you people doing?
Very well.
Now, what are your thoughts? Isn't this Ghana taking the lead in Africa, showing that elections can be conducted freely and fairly as possible, and regardless of people's desires to clinch onto power, the will of the people is respected. Barrister, let me start with you on this one.
Yeah, Moses. In fact, you know, the world is a global village. When it comes to matters like this, you are expected to copy something new and innovative from another country. That is how countries develop. You cannot reinvent the wheel. The wheel has already been invented. All you need is to cue in. That's what they say. But in our own giant of Africa, I was thinking that somebody should be telling us one major thing that Ghana copied from Nigeria. I didn't see any. The only thing the man was saying that the result before, that result don't used to come to the central pool. That because of the way Nigeria did it, it was no longer like that.
It was announced at the
regional levels and all that. And I'm asking myself, how did that help improve Nigerian selection?
Well,
instead of him to be telling us the free and fair election that was conducted, that an election that was devoid of what's it called now, violence, an election that did not even end up at the court because the man already conceded.
Even before results were announced.
Exactly. Maybe because of the influence of our own Jonathan, who was there. Yes, our Jonathan, he was there. He left on, that was on Thursday, Friday, to go and,
So you think
yes.
They borrowed the lead from him?
If Mahmoud had told us that it was the presence of Jonathan that even influenced what happened, I would have said yes, it's possible. Because exactly what Jonathan did was what this other man did.
All right, then.
He considered. He said that with the result now, there's no way he will win that election. With what is left. You know that even as of today, there are still some places they need to count. Yes. But the man is saying, look, with this thing now, I don't think there's any need. He congratulated me without waiting for the final decision. So that is how a gentleman behaves. Please, my brothers, somebody will call now or say now that, will you to contest every election in Nigeria? That is what. If an election is free and fair, it will be an embarrassment for you to go and contest it.
All right. Let's bring Akin into the conversation now. We're talking about the fairness of the conduct of the elections. Let's also look at, first I'll get your thoughts on it, and then let's look at the involvement of the people. Back here in Nigeria, where of course our population is more than that of Ghana, in the 2023 elections, we saw a participation of about a little over 21% of Nigerians participated. If you want to draw a comparison with Ghana's election, they had about over 61% participation. So the people came out. The people were not intimidated from coming out to vote. How do you react to that?
Positively. Congratulations to Ghana, our sister democracy. You made the allusion very clearly. When you want to make comparison for likes and likes in terms of the population, in terms of the consciousness. I dare say I have a lot of Ghanaian friends and brothers who have sat in class professionally. And I think whether in the field of sports, culture, just name it, even intermarriage, we are there. So I congratulate Mahmoud.
One of us is with us. One of them is with us here.
They are always with us, and we are always with them.
You do remember that?
The truth of the matter is that we must, and I must say that what I had Professor Mahmoud Yakubu do, in my mind, my honest opinion, is concede the fact that in the Ghanaian context, they had a much more committed process. We had process, we were not as committed. They had better committed innovations. We came with innovations, we didn't follow it through. And perhaps more than most, Ghana had relative political stability. We did not have political stability. We were different, different in tribes and tongues. Is that enough to say we should not have? Well, I guess when you look at the landmass of Ghana and you compare it to a relative landmass that we have in Nigeria, I think on comparison to comparison basis, we are also improving.
Okay.
I will also say that when you have political stability and we have men and women of valor, when they win elections, they are humble in victory. When they lose elections, they do not now necessarily have to blame every other person apart from them. Your last point about people participation is telling. And again, the political environment that allows people to come, vote and be voted for, that has no intimidation, that will not be looking at tribes and be asking some people to go jump in the lagoon or, ask people to not shift away.
That's another thing I was going to come to. The focus during the campaign.
Exactly.
What is the problem with Nigeria's politicians? Because we saw that the focus in Ghana was about the economy, how the economy has fared within this current administration. Yes, we know that they borrowed some money at some point because they fell short so they had to get a $30 billion IMF loan.
They had to take loan.
They had to take a loan. Now, but the people wanted change. But we also know that it wasn't so bad because the current sitting administration gave them free education to secondary school level. The sitting administration also introduced what they call one district, one factory, where they were able to situate factories in about 261 districts. But regardless, the people wanted change.
Yes.
But in Nigeria, we were talking more about ethnicity. And sorry to interrupt you, this is a bit long, but we also saw a situation whereby both candidates pitched for the election, both from the NPP and the NDC, were from the disadvantaged north of Ghana, meaning whoever wins, the disadvantaged north gets a chance at the big seat. Shouldn't Nigeria borrow a leaf from all of this?
Conventionally, I go back because if you do that comparison, I would say, please, can we just compare that with Oyo State? Could we compare that with Abia State in terms of, the kind of population? Take elections to Abia State, even though you do a backwardaya, you go to just one party and all that, you hardly will find a disadvantaged section winning those elections. Now, I also must say that when you are then doing your comparison, which is fair, and I hear you loud and clear, I did not hear about do or die. We have do or die in Nigeria. I did also not hear where the disadvantaged section that you mentioned disadvantaged themselves by splitting their votes and looking at strategy. They stuck to the parties, and they did not cross carpet. We don't have that in Nigeria. And so, at the end of the day, bottom line, decency should come. And then again, the technology. And that is what I heard Mahmoud say, Professor Mahmoud say, look, yes, I may have been big, I might have done my mistakes, but sometimes, somehow, the electoral campaign that we had was not just about tribe, it was also about religion. Okay. It was also about the fact that you cannot be Muslim, you cannot be Muslim, Christian, you know. All those fault lines, they failed us, plus deliberate situations where we split our votes. When we split our votes, Jonathan lost because the governors were, you know, here and there. So I'll keep. I'll keep.
All right, sir. Barry, yes.
I would like to ask Barrister a question based on Akin's take. You know, Mr. Akin, we talked about comparison, you know, and you said you brought the issue of population, you brought the issue of land mass, you know. This was a nationwide election, you know, involving the whole of Ghana, you know, and it went on very smoothly. You know, the results are yet to be announced. And we already have a candidate that has conceded, you know, to the winner.
Beautiful.
Good thing. But we have our own umpire said, look, they did well because they copied from us. Yet this umpire was unable to conduct just one state. We are still comparing. Just one state, Edo State.
Okay, good. Okay.
And it didn't come out free and fair as the nationwide election came out free and fair. And you have the opinion that we have made progress. Barrister Darlington, do you agree with Mr. Fatuke?
I don't. Because some of the comparisons he made here, I don't even know where to pin it down. You mentioned Abia. But we are talking of a whole Ghana. How does that pan out? Thank God you were able to tell us that the two candidates are from their disadvantage, not according to you. Now, why didn't the politicians in Ghana or the competitors, why didn't they go into vote buying, into more slinging? Because the Ghana election was successful largely because the electoral laws of Ghana was obeyed. There are sanctions if you cross the red line. Last week, I debated it here with one man from Ghana who was giving us, that was on Thursday, who was giving us a breakdown of what was going on. The man said that, because we mentioned vote by, the man said, no, you can't find such a thing, that within the barrier where the electors will come in, because when they gather like that, the people that have been cleared to vote, they will come into a barrier. That barrier, whatever goes outside there, nobody, but immediately you enter that barrier to vote, you have become an elector. And there is nothing like anybody coming to induce you or carry money. It can never happen. He said it can never happen. That you will be sanctioned immediately. Please, was that like that in our election? Wasn't INEC aware of what was going on? After all, his people were there. EFCC was there. Police were there. In fact, police and the EFCC are even aiding and abetting.
That brings me to this question.
So when you are talking of Ghana, the people in Ghana, do they have two heads? Is it not because the leaders have said, no, even though we are going into election, you must not do this, you must not do it, and then stuck to it.
Barrister Darlington, during this election that just happened on Saturday, we saw where the people, I'm talking about civilians now, Ghanaians, stopping military from getting into the polling unit.
Of course.
In fact, they stood your ground and they say, you cannot get into this place. Please turn around, go back. Now, my question is this. Isn't it high time we stop using police and military to conduct our own election? Because we know that in Port Harcourt, River State, for example, they did their election without the presence of the police. They said they are not coming. Okay. And that election was kind of free and fair. Okay. You know, this is a video of where Ghanaians are saying, no, military, you can't enter the polling unit. You have to go back. Good. What are we going to do to this?
Now, Fina, let me tell you, I've told you here, you see this violence all over Nigeria. The government created it. It has become a psychological character of Nigerians. That unless something is done violently, you will not get your way. I was saying it here, that this idea of bringing police, army, everything we are doing, it will destroy our society. I said it here. Gradually, don't look at it. Everything we want to do now, police, army will come in with brute force. And the people are getting, this thing is sinking into their brain. That so it is only through violence that you can grab it, snatch it, and then run with it. Imagine if the federal government has said, look, police, army, oh yeah, go back to your barracks. Let me see who will not go to the polling unit and cause mayhem. Let me see the person Because all the parties are there. I will not allow you to do whatever. You will not allow me to do whatever. So let me see. Then you tell the political gladiator, tell your people, if there is any infraction from any political party, and we discover that these thoughts are working for you, you are out of that competition. Can't we do such a thing?
So you think the call for us to review our electoral act, because some people are also calling for that in Nigeria. They're saying we need to go back and amend the 1999 constitution, especially the part that has to do with the election and electoral practices. You think that it is high time we Nigerians look to that direction?
But the electoral practice, what we have now, look, it's implementation of the laws. We have so many laws. At times we are even confused. How many amendments are you going to do? Implement what is on ground now. Like there is a part of electoral law that says if there's any infraction from any party, the candidate for that party is off the race.
Right, yeah.
Yes. Why is anybody not talking about it? Look at people carrying cash openly with the video everything in an election day on the election ground. Oh, now ask you, okay, whom are you canvassing for? Who is that? Who is? Okay, when you say, at least from that point, you discover that this person is for APC, this person is for PDP. From there, you can arrest, but here, can you arrest APC members when they are buying vote? Can you arrest them? Can you arrest them?
Also, Barrister Darlington, we know that the person who considered the person that lost this election happened to be vice president in Seaton. And then we could recall that I think it was last month or 2 months ago when Nana Akufo-Addo, the former president, he elected him on. He said the president, but that would be very soon. So we have, he elected his status. A very big one in Ghana, and also we know that he did campaign. He talked in favor of his vice president, and now he lost this election.
Because of what?
He lost this election because the people come. And the kind of we're talking about now, if we check Ghana cedis to $1, I think as of the last time we checked, it stand at 114 Ghana cedis to $1. Talking about what we have in Nigeria, 1,700 something naira to $1. And now, what do you really think that made, I'm talking about the president who is still there and other people not to have influence in that particular election, unlike what we're seeing in Nigeria? Because we're trying to strike a comparison with what Mahmoud Yakubu is talking about.
My dear, when you have leadership that are focused, leadership that came from the people that knows what the people want, they will educate you on what to do. When Chinua Achebe wrote his book, The Problem of Nigeria is Leadership, he doesn't know what to do. Imagine if all the political leaders were to lead their people aright, educate them, like it was their former leader, Kwame Nkrumah, who was talking about the political freedom, one Africa and all that. These Ghana people have been, they have gone far when it comes to political education. That's what drove this. That's driving their economy. I mean, their politics. Political education of the people.
Okay.
Ghanaian people are so much aware. That was why they had independence in 1957. Why we are still lacking behind.
Okay.
So, whichever way you look at it, it is because the Ghana people, they know what they want. They have been educated. Their leaders have given them example to follow. They don't just bring any rabble-rouser to come and lead them.
Thank you, Barrister Darlington. Mr. Aki, let me come back to you. The Ghana election was basically an issue-based campaign, you know, because people have said, Ghanaians have said that, look, the economy had tanked over time, in the past years that Addo was the president. Now, the election, like I said, was issue-based. Ghana seems to be doing well. Ghana seems to be taking the shine off Nigeria, Look at AFTA. AFTA left Nigeria. Their head office is in Ghana. Microsoft left Nigeria. They went to Ghana. A couple of other companies left Nigeria, and they are going to Ghana. So at what point do you think that Nigeria will get to a point where our elections, become issue-based, away from these ethnic bigotry, clannish sentiments, and all of that? Do you think that in the immediate 2027, that we'll see something different from what happened in 2023? Is there a possibility that we'll get to that level very soon?
Thanks, Chukuma. I go back to where I started from. I was clear. The elections that took place in Ghana, when you want to do a comparison with Nigeria, there is no way you will say to me they have not moved better, even within the confine that they had. We had much more complex. Take it, we won't leave it. Now, on the issue-based...
Sorry, when you talk about complex, can we understand the complexity?
Nigeria is much more complex than Ghana.
Is there life?
Barrister, are you going to allow me to... Barrister, please? I didn't interrupt.
Mr. Complex in what sense?
Nigeria is much more complex than Nigeria in terms of population, in terms of land size.
Okay.
We know that. If you do not want to agree to that,
it's not a matter of agreeing. We are holding a conversation. How complex is Nigeria?
Allow me.
No, you said something. I want to understand.
Allow me to land on my thoughts, please. You allowed him to land on his thoughts. Allow me to land on my thoughts.
Mr. King, how complex is Nigeria when you compare it to the
Nigeria is complex as to tribe,
okay,
as to religion.
Okay.
Nigeria is complex as to landmarks.
Okay.
You know that.
Population.
Okay, so you know. So please, let me go.
So can you relate that to America to that held the elections in November 5?
No. So you want to go to America?
No, you're talking about complexity.
America is not complex. America's election is perfect. That's what you are saying? No, I'm not going to say that about my country. I agree that my country has challenges. So let's go back to the main thrust of your question.
All right, go ahead, please.
And which is, that is issue-based. It's economy. It is not true that while we were trying to run our elections, we did not talk about the economy. In fact, all the complexities that we have in Nigeria, all the political parties were talking about the fact that our economy has not only tanked, but was reducing. And that we need to recalibrate. There was nobody that did not agree with that. It might just be method. And therefore, I'm going to be saying to Mahamudu Bawumia, it is not because you've won the election. It is about the economy that must turn around. And you must have a very good situation strategy to look at that. In our election,
sorry, Mr.
Another complexity
again
is the fact that I go down there. We are different countries in Nigeria. And our elections have not been a situation where, perhaps, for one minor exception in the Jonathan's election, you will see people, even if they have lost squarely and flatly, who say they do not agree.
Okay.
And it's the reason why we are talking about restructuring. My position still remains.
Okay.
That yes, our electoral process has evolved.
Okay, that
is not perfect. It cannot be perfect.
All right.
We had situations where the process, as we had at our last election, where the people were talking about beavers and not beavers and all that, and the electoral empire, what he assured.
All right, Mr. King, we need to bring in our Abuja correspondent. But before we go over to Abuja, I would like to know from you specifically
if
the 2023 election was issue-based regarding the economy. You know, this present administration, said that they were going to continue from where the immediate past administration continued.
Okay, so is that a question to me?
That they were going, no, I'm coming. They were going to continue from where the immediate past administration stopped. Meanwhile, at that point, the economy had already tanked. Inflation has increased. Our GDP has nosedived. Our borrowing, everything had gone down. So do you still believe, knowing that the election was issue-based and it revolved around the economy?
Chukuma, it was issue-based.
To what extent?
To the extent that all the indices that you reeled out, all the political parties recognized that we are going downhill. Was that not true?
And a particular party said we are going to continue from where you stopped?
Wait now. You asked me a question. Now, you also were very smart in saying the implementation will have been different. The consensus building...
Implementation of what?
The implementation of how you tackle the problems will have been different. The consensus would have been different. The kind of character, the capacities you bring to the table would have been different. Right. The situation we find ourselves whereby a particular party says, well, everybody that I'm going to be adopting will come from my tribe.
All right, then.
It's negative. But it was issue-based to say that we had tanked, and all of them, without exception, said we must make a turnaround. And make a turnaround,
most definitely.
Paying.
Most definitely. Yes, we understand that a lot of the contestants at the 2023 election talked about fuel subsidy removal.
Thank you.
But, we are seeing how it is going under this current administration. Oh well, let's
something
please,
is
Barrister.
different from doing it. Mr. told us how he would remove fuel subsidy. He made it clear.
What did he say?
It's not the way Tinubu did it.
What did he say?
The first day.
What did he say?
He said he will provide alternative.
What
like
is
this Port Harcourt refinery that is working now. Why didn't he start working before you remove the subsidy? Is that not a better idea? He said it now. He clearly said it. That there must be an alternative before he will remove.
On burning issues.
From the street of New York, the royal cities of London, and the bustling cities of Europe, Voice of the People Television brings to you a roundtable and collage of interesting views from Nigerians in diaspora.
Join the host of the show and some Nigerians in diaspora, Dr. Damages, the flagship, Show, and KJ, as they discuss the experiences, challenges, and triumphs of Nigerians living abroad.
Discussing and analyzing everything from politics, culture, policies, career success, and how Nigerians are staying connected to their roots. Showing every Saturday by 2 p.m. West African Time and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
The Diaspora Perspective, giving a voice to Nigerians abroad. From the views on the street,
We go to bed empty hunger.
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lawn.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people. From the views on the street,
We go to bed empty hunger.
Welcome back to the conversation, and we do apologize for that break. We had a technical hitch there, but we're back, and we'll continue the conversation. We still have with us in the studio Mr. Akin Fatunke, who is a communication consultant and an arbitrator. We also have Barrister Darlington Agomo with us, and we're talking about elections in Ghana, lessons to be learned from it. And yes, a few questions before we wrap up this part of the show. Let me come to Barrister Darlington. Now, Barrister, we understand that in Ghana, part of the things that is it NPC? Yes, the NPP.
Okay, the ruling party.
The ruling party.
Yes.
Part of the things they used in campaigning was to break the eighth. No, they call it break the eight, which is to break the jinx that no party stays beyond 8 years in Ghana. It's been between the NPP and the NDC. 8 years, Ghanaians always want change. They used that in campaigning. Unfortunately, they couldn't break the eight. I think Ghanaians are not ready to see one party stay beyond an 8-year term. Now, we also understand that John Dramani, who has been re-elected, he pulled a Trump on, he pulled a Trump in Ghana. President one time, being re-elected now. Before he left office in 2012, he was accused of corruption. He was accused of receiving bribe in the form of a Ford car, four-wheel drive. But now he comes in and he wants to fight corruption. What do you think will play out?
Now, Moses, corruption has levels. I am telling you, there is no perfect politician. It depends on the level of culpability. That's what we are talking about here. If you come into office and you met 10 naira in your national treasury, and you take 2 naira and put in your pocket, nobody will notice. You now use 8 naira to work for the people. It will show that, yes, this man is working. But when the reverse is the case, you come into office, the first thing you do is to borrow money and start buying luxury things. Please, how will that economy stand? That's what we are talking about here. There is no perfect politician anywhere. They all do one thing or the other. But it is not to the extreme, like in Nigeria, where people are stealing trillions, not even millions or billions, trillions now. How can that economy stand? If you compare what Mahama did in his first time, Ford and whatever, those things are like, launch a gift now to some people here. Okay. You can't compare with the level of stealing in Nigeria. So that is what we are talking about. If you come to fight corruption, yes, because under him things were better.
So who's supposed to learn from who now, Barrister Darlington? Is it that Nigeria need to learn from Ghana, just like, or is it that Ghanaians need to learn from? Because we heard what INEC chairman said, that even though we don't practice the same type of government they practice in Ghana, but it's more like let Nigerian politicians copy from Ghana when it comes to corruption. Okay. Because no Ghana politician will go and build a house of 753 duplexes anywhere with Ghana money. Barrister Darlington, there is no land for that in the first place. Nobody can do that.
Barrister Darlington, please hold your line of thought. We need to connect you to our Abuja studio now. Chuka, good morning once again.
Well, we seem to be having a network issue with Abuja studio and some of our outstations. We have studios in Port Harcourt, Abuja, and Oka. Well, in the course of time, we'll be able to fix that and connect to our outstations.
All right, let me stay with Barrister Darlington. Good. Barrister Darlington, quickly, we are pressed for time because we need to get into the second topic of discussion. But before we do, Moses said something about the break 8, after 8 years. And I said something again about pulling the Trump in Ghana. This is a man that between 12 and 17, he was president of Ghana. And now Trump, between 2020 and when, 20. No, between 16 and 20, he was president, but he's made a comeback. Yes. Now, if you go to some parts of the country, Nigeria now, you see the posters of former President Goodluck Jonathan, and people have been nudging him, people have been pushing him, to come and run. Is there a possibility that Jonathan might make a comeback, to complement what Trump and Mahama have done in the US and Ghana?
Mr. Okoro, please, what was that thing that is giving Trump an aid that America loves him for? Is it not performance in office? Remember that when Trump came, all the things Obama did with the Chinese and other foreign, he reversed all of them. And the Ghana economy picked up. They are still American economy, you mean? American economy picked up. Even they are still industry that Obama sold to China. In fact, Obama placed a very high tax on them. So it is performance that is driving this. That's why the people want them, nothing else. Are you telling me that if Jonathan had performed
performance or making the country great, making the country feel like...
It's performance now. It's another performance. You cannot perform here and perform woefully as you said people did. No, under Jonathan, he was an all-round president.
Barrister,
the level of corruption you can attribute to Jonathan was minimal.
Please hold on.
Very minimal.
Let's connect to our Abuja studio now, where Chuka is standing by. Chuka, good morning to you. Welcome to the conversation.
Good morning, Moses.
It's been a struggle connecting to you. I hope the network allows us to have this conversation, Chuka. Oh well, some
I hope so too.
Are rejoicing. They have the change that they desire. And some people are drawing comparison with Nigeria, especially with the statements from Mahmoud Yakubu that Ghanaians learned a few things from Nigeria. Now, what do you make of the elections in Ghana? What's your take on it, and what should be the lessons that should be taken away from it?
Couple of takes from the Ghanaian from the election. For one, the level of violence was at its barest minimum, which is something to commend them for. Secondly, the former president staging a comeback after how many successful attempts, and winning is also something to really talk about, write home about. And also the fact that they could run a virtually free and fair election, and the loser, who's current vice president, coming out to congratulate the winner, says a lot about Ghana and how matured or how developed their level of politics has come to. For our INEC, for our electoral chairman here in Nigeria, who's come out to say Ghana's Nigeria, I feel it needs take a couple of back and let developed countries that know how to run proper elections do their thing. We shouldn't be out there saying anything, because if we're going to look at its antecedents, since he became electoral chairman of the electoral board in Nigeria, all the elections he has conducted have been mere of issues and lawsuits and what have you. So it's just funny, it's just funny. But for Ghana, I think it's a right step in the right direction. They're trying to show Africa this is how elections should be done. And okay,
Chuka, let me start with you. Chuka, can you let us into the reactions of people in Abuja, in the streets of Abuja? Abuja is the capital city of Nigeria. Can you let us know the reaction of people concerning the Ghana elections? How are people taking it? Considering the fact that the INEC chairman also said that Ghana did well because they learned from us. How are people reacting?
There's been this we only see the relationship between Nigeria and Ghana. We always try to compete with each other, both in sports. So for the perspective of Nigerians here in Abuja and regards to the Ghanaian, I feel actually proud of Ghana. They feel if Ghana can do it, it's something that Nigeria, being the supposedly giant of Africa, should be able to do better. But then there's some wins that you just can't, this is a win for Ghana. And it's if you're gonna put it on the scoreboard thing, it's gonna be like a 1-0, 1 for Ghana, 0 for Nigeria when it comes to election. So from the people here, I think it's.
Thank you. Well, let's bring you back to the studio, Mr. Akinau. We asked the question.
Yes.
Well, I asked the question about: are we going to see a comeback of a former president in Nigeria come 2027? Do you think there's a possibility that can happen?
Obasanjo, whether military and civilian, came back. It was within his rights. Muhammadu Buhari came back. It was within his rights. Beyond that, it is within the rights of President Goodluck Jonathan, if he seeks to come back. And for me, people are talking about wind of change. People are talking about headwinds. My brother here also has agreed. He was talking about stealing. I think Chukba also talked about should we continue the way we need to continue. Look, the economy was bad. And I can say to you categorically, among the contenders for that 2020 elections, Bola Ahmed Tinubu will have lost that election squarely if we base it on issue-based. But some other things played out. The complexity that I spoke about, those complexities that were there, that a particular region says, unless they support a particular candidate or not support a particular candidate, the elections is like gone. There are realities.
All right.
The second aspect
before we leave, Mr. Akia,
if you decide that you are going to split your votes,
put the question out of context. You can't be talking about Muhammad Buhari and Obasanjo coming back. I mean, people didn't give them power in the first place. They took power by force. We are asking you, a democratically elected government, is it possible for a president,
I spoke in English, and as a communicator, I mean, you are not going to ask me, and then I should just tell you, Jonathan.
No, but you are putting out wrong information. That
is not wrong information.
No, it is.
Tell me
Buhari came in as a military leader.
But I mentioned that.
Buhari
I said that. Go and play back.
Why would you put it into context?
All I'm saying that ordinarily, this bench should not have come back.
Did they come back?
They came back as
what? Who voted them in the first place?
Wait now. They came back as civilian president, and Nigerians, whether with all the shenanigans, accepted them.
Mr. Aki, we are talking about a civilian, former civilian president coming back into office as a civilian president.
And I said, I am not going to tell you 2 + 2 is 4.
No, you don't need to bring in Muhammadu Buhari and Obasanjo into this context. That is the correction I want to make.
No, you cannot correct me in that.
No, I'm correcting you because you are wrong.
No, you cannot. I'm right.
You are very wrong.
You are wrong in your analysis.
When Buhari came when Buhari came into office the first time, did you vote for him?
No. Please don't go personal. All I am saying to you is, we had a military president.
Are we talking about military democracy or civilian democracy?
It was going on. I am not.
What was going on, Mr. Aki?
You asked the question. He asked the question. He said, "Do I feel that?"
Well, I think this would be a good place to anchor the conversation.
And I said that it's within his right. And I drew back into history.
As we
go into complexity.
Our next topic.
Sorry if you don't like it.
Thank you very much.
If you don't like it.
Well, let's get to the next conversation now. Free Kanu by December 25. Meet Tinubu now. This is coming from American military veterans of Igbo descent. From the group called Avid. They're urging Southeast governors to do this, free Nnamdi Kanu, and speak to the president on this before December 25. Let's look at this when we come back.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's move over to the second topic of conversation, where the American military veterans of Igbo descent, Avid, has called on the Southeast governors to intensify efforts to free the detained IPOB leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Avid assured that Kanu's release wouldn't hinder their 2027 vice presidential ambition. In an open letter, Avid's president, Dr. Sylvester Onya, and secretary, Dr. Godson Obiago, urged the governors to engage President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for Kanu's release before Christmas. They warned that further delays might imply the governor's complicity in Kanu's continued detention. Avid expressed shock over allegations that a Southeast governor is blocking Kanu's release due to fears it might affect his vice presidential ambitions. They emphasized that Kanu, being apolitical, poses no threat to any Igbo politician's aspirations. Avid argued that Kanu's detention fuels insecurity in the Southeast and called on all Southeast leaders to fulfill their promises to seek his release. They criticized Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State for allegedly being reluctant to push for Kanu's release, fearing it might end the special security intervention fund he receives. Avid urged Uzodinma to prioritize the lives of Ndibo and Imo State people over monetary gains and called on security agencies to stop using Kanu's detention as a pretext for inflated security budgets. And we still have with us in the studio, we still have Barrister Darlington Agumo and Mr. Akin Fatenke with us in the studio. And I would like to start off, by asking Mr. Akin Fatenke, what do you make of this particular claims by the American military veteran of Igbo descent that some governors or politicians in Southeast are the ones preventing the release of Nnamdi Kanu, because they went for that to allege that the sitting governor of Imo State is scared, that if Nnamdi Kanu is being released, that his special security intervention fund he receives, won't come to his coffers anymore. What do you make of this allegation?
Thanks, Fina. When you have a problem and you are bold enough to look inwards and speak truth to yourself, then the solution is well nigh. I am not sure it is only Avid that has made this pronouncement. One year before his death, also pressed forward and even advised Nnamdi Kanu that, look, all the rhetorics, irrespective, please, let's keep and look for a political solution. What do I feel? There are 5 states in the Southeast. I am acutely aware that allegedly, even if it is one state in Imo State that is blocking, what happens to the other 4 states? Professor Charles Soludo has been very vehement, has said, please, and spoken to the central government, please release Nnamdi Kanu to me. With all the guarantees, he's going to do something. I also know that the other states, allegedly, kind of want to support him. I see a situation where we do not have the same kind of consensus, and each time we talk about things like this, discussion will now be a Buhari or a Bola Tinubu. It goes beyond these individuals. I believe, and my position has been consistent, that it is an appeal to the indigo. Yes, it is true that you may have your political ambition or whatever it is, but if the people speak with one voice and not use extra, stay at home, don't do, and you listen and you try, the voice of the majority will triumph. And then we can easily say, look, Mr. President, as I believe is going to happen, that at the end of the day, it's going to be a political solution to the Nnamdi Kanu. Now, he asked that should be done by
December 25.
December on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
If all the consensus come and galvanize together, I think it's possible.
So what's a consensus, and how do you think they're going to do the galvanization, given the fact that over 50 House of Representative members have even talked about, I'm talking about those who are not even from Southeast or of Southeast extraction, have talked about the release of Nnamdi Kanu.
Yes.
And not just that, you made mention of Iwanya and so many other politicians or political elites from the Southeast, even the late Ifan Yuba and co, have talked about how the release of Nnamdi Kanu is going to be beneficiary to the Southeast. And given the fact that he did not really do anything different from what the likes of Sunday Boho and, Showore did, even Onitire also did here in Nigeria.
I will unpack very briefly with just one statement. Nnamdi Kanu, unfortunately, did a bit much more to Nigeria in terms of negative insults. Yes, on general scale, they were all accused of being terrorists. Unfortunately, his IPOB, unfortunately I say, his IPOB was tagged a terrorist organization where we had other terrorist organizations elsewhere that were not tagged. So that is one. And please don't forget, and you've mentioned that people from outside Igbo land, I'm not an Igbo man, but I know a lot about Igbo land. So I have been advocating that if Indigo come together, I am still talking about this consensus. It may not be 100%. If they come together and they look a bit more inward, they can stretch across other like-minded elsewhere, like I am doing. We also tell Mr. President, it's high time. Let's fair be fair. Let's release Nnamdi Kanu, and by so doing, help us secure relative peace. I put relative peace, not permanent, relative peace in the Southeast.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Barrister Darlington, let's bring you into this conversation. You heard what Avid said, that the governors or a certain governor of Southeast extraction is the one behind the continued detention of Nnamdi Kanu, because the person is said to have a vice presidential ambition in 2022. Do you agree with Avid?
Yeah.
Okay.
As things stands now, there are many permutations on the table.
Okay.
Apart from somebody's ambition, there is equally the party affiliation, tendencies here.
Okay.
Because if you watch, it is all. In fact, it is all. We can say that yes, it is people of APC extraction in the Southeast that are blocking this thing.
Okay.
APC extraction.
Now, let me ask you, if you agree with what Avid has said, that a certain governor, is the one blocking the release of Nnamdi Kanu, what does it speak to the personality of the president, the credibility of the president? If a particular governor if the president becomes so amenable, so pliable, so pliant to the wishes of one man, yet the president is not pliable to that man, when the man says, look, we have infrastructural decay in the Southeast. We need federal presence in the Southeast. The Southeast has been included from the commanding heights of Nigeria's national life, and the president doesn't listen to him. How do you react? Isn't that some kind of contradiction?
Exactly, my brother. Exactly. Because this is that everybody is appealing for Nnamdi Kanu's release. I ask myself, these other people that were released, how many of their kinsmen went to visit Tinubu before they were released? Did you hear any time where the elite in the Southwest went to meet Tinubu? Please release Shawore, release the Sunday Boho. Something like that never happened. It did not happen. So he did it on his own, without any prodding from anybody.
So that tells you,
so
like there is nobody, no governor, anybody that is on the way of Nnamdi Kanu.
I am coming. You know, when they want to spread this propaganda, they sell it to the gullible, not me. If the Igbos have decided to do something now that will not favor Tinubu, and one governor is the one fighting for it, please, who will Tinubu listen to? Will he say because one governor supports him and the other one did not, therefore he will go by that one governor and then discountenance the other four? Meanwhile, it is for political reason. Will he not go for the four who supports him and discountenance the one?
So that's what I'm asking. Is it a contradiction that you agree with Avid?
It is. What I'm saying now is that, the outside here, they are even listening to what they are being told. What I'm saying is that all these talks now, who's supposed to resolve this issue? Is it not President Tinubu? Because someone said I should not mention his name, I should not talk. But he was able to release the Shawore and the Igboho. But our own now, don't mention his name. If Tinubu wants to resolve this matter, please, do you need to appeal to him? Or has he not seen injustice here? These other people that they not who are walking about freely. Mr. Okoro, freely, after all the mayhem that are committed in the north. One even threatened his own wife, the president's wife, and Tinubu did not talk.
Okay.
Imagine an Igbo man saying that to the Tinubu. Imagine.
No, Barrister Darlington, a quick one now before we,
So it's a hatred. It's hatred.
Now, Barrister Darlington, IPOB have come up initially to say we are not the reason, we are not the cause of the insecurity in the Southeast. And just like Alex also made a statement last month saying that IPOB should not be blamed for the killings in Abia State to start with. And now we're hearing that allegedly that a particular governor in the Southeast is kind of, reluctant about pushing for the release of the single man whom have said that if you release me, the issue of insecurity in the Southeast is going to end and all that because of the Special Security Intervention Fund is getting. What does this really portend? Is it that word of Alex is coming to fruition? What do you make of that?
Because when Ebubago was formed at Imo Government House, that was where Hope Uzodinma formed the Ebubago. And later, the Igbos and the Ohanes, they discovered that is a killing squad. And they told him to disband them. The Igbos disbanded the Ebubago when they saw what they were doing. The people that raided Ugochinyele's house, Did you know that the man planted a secret camera? And their picture, their faces were shown to be people working with the purpose of them in government house. Okay. He published it all over the place. Mr. Okoro, is that not true? What happened to those faces that we saw that raided that man's house? What happened to them? Nothing was done. Nothing. All right, but
so much to talk about. Yes, let's bring in our correspondent from Oka. Let him give us a view of how insecurity is. What's going on? Okay, I understand that the Abuja correspondent is ready. Chuka, good to have you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chukuma. Thank you.
All right, Chuka, now you heard what Avid said. Avid is the American military veterans of Igbo descent in the United States. They have said that, look, the president should please release Nnamdi Kanu before or on the 25th of December, more like a Christmas gift to the Igbo, you know, to douse the insecurity in the Southeast. They also said that a certain governor or some governors are the ones behind his continued detention. What's your reaction to that in the first place? And while you are telling us your reaction, let us also hear from you the reactions of people, Nigerians in Abuja, regarding the continued detention of Nnamdi Kanu in some way in Abuja. Hello, Chuka.
For the group that's called as... yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Chukuma?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, I feel it's the president's prerogative to release Nnamdi Kanu when he wills and if he decides to. A group calling on the president to release him, for me, I feel it's just it's more of media. What it might have good intentions, but like Benson said, it doesn't have to take a group or a group of people to beg and ask the president to release someone before he can do that. If President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wanted to release Nnamdi Kanu or thought Nnamdi Kanu was due for release, he would have done it with or without any group, you know, appealing to him as to that regards. For the general populace of Nigerians, especially speaking from Abuja, the seat of power where I am here, I don't really generalize, but a lot of Nigerians would feel that the Nnamdi Kanu situation is a dicey one. You know, there'll be definitely people for his release and people against his release. That's just how it's going to. It seems, or rather, that's how it seems. A lot of people will tell you the southeast region was stabilized and peaceful, and relatively peaceful and stable before Nnamdi Kanu came with his IPOB ideology, and and so another sort of people will tell you that Nnamdi Kanu had very good plans. The intention behind is from me, and the IPOB was to emancipate the Igbo people from the so-called the so-called zoo country. So different people with their and but I feel it's a kind of very tricky and dicey situation. If you ask me for one, I don't know. My view has always been that he should where he is, and
Okay, Chuka, let me stay with you. When you talk about the people, a couple of people in Abuja, when people discuss IPOB in Abuja, when people discuss Nnamdi Kanu's detention, do they see it as an Igbo question or is it a Nigerian question?
Igbo agenda, and the way it's been this way, right? Ever since the end of the Civil War, there's been lots of distrust between the Igbo people and people from the other parts of the country. So I don't think that distrust has ever healed, and this comes down to everything that has to do with the Igbo nation, the Igbo race, and in this regards to IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chukudile. Now, let me bring you back to the studio. Mr. Akina, you talked about a political solution to the continued detention of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, with the political solution being the answer, doesn't that speak to the fact that doesn't that speak to the inability of the courts to actually adjudicate on issues and then some way, somehow, influence other arms of government to carry out the rulings of the court?
Thank you for that brilliant question. The ability of the courts. The courts can be slow, can be sluggish, more people will die and all that. And when I use the word appeal, I still insist that an appeal would do. Common sense, emotional intelligence. The President of the Federal Republic, this particular president, previously led the APC, okay, I said the APC, could easily have torpedoed the process of the courts. But I insist that rather than continue to go right round, some of the things that Nnamdi Kanu did, apart from what we know, is to say that he was going to declare a Republic of Biafra, just like Igbo did. And people said, okay, look, what? Where is the map? And he drew the map and put in, and people say, wait a minute, let's be very careful about it. And quite a number of people, including Goodluck Jonathan's Bayelsa, said, look, please be careful to make your map
inclusive of us,
so that the Ogoja people, the Cross River and all that, let's be very careful. And Nnamdi Kanu then say, look, as far as we are concerned, I'm going to go to the United Nations. And people say, okay, look, no problem. Can you go through a process? Can you go speak to your people? Can you do a referendum? There was a mock referendum that was done between a group of people strictly of Igbo extraction in Lagos. And the vast majority, according to that poll, said that no, in a united, equitable Nigeria, they would rather want to stay with Nigeria. If you understand that. So these voices are some of the things I hear. I sit with in Lagos. I sit with people who are not biased. When you have a man with a gun, there are sometimes you play the fool. You plead. Otherwise, it might stamp you out of existence. So the political solution is such that if you then say, no, we should not appeal, let the court process go on. That was not what I heard from late Nwanyawu. And I support Nwanyawu, and the thing has gone very far. Now, the Avid coming on and saying, the problem is internal. And that was where I started from. That problem remained internal. When that problem remained internal, and you allow people from outside that internal enclave, so that they say, look, fear is fear. You should be equitable. Please, as far as we are concerned, it's going to be a political solution. When Shagari did a political solution, and he gave amnesty to Dim Ojukwu, that later became Dim, were we not all happy? Was Nigeria not all happy?
First to go on.
Sorry?
He first gave to go on.
Go ahead. Okay, so all I'm saying that I remember people asked Ojukwu, are you going to forgive your people? Are you going to forgive Zik? On national television, he said, look, can you look at my eyes? I'm facing front. I've forgotten some of the things at the back. I can't see behind me. Are we in a trust kind of situation where that goes to your question? That is it a Nigerian question?
Exactly, I was coming to that.
Is it a Nigerian question or non-Nigerian question?
Or an Igbo
we
question.
have mistrust in this country against one another. I know the Ndigbo has mistrust against the Yoruba has mistrust against the North and what have you. Until, and I'm beginning to see a move in that direction, where come together. When you're able to come together, half of what you have and half of what the other person has can become a whole. But if you continue to stay on one lane and say that, look, you are going to go it, you can't do it alone in the kind of federation that we have in Nigeria. So I come back to my point, my appeal, and the way I look at my strategy, my strategy spear, is that I think Nnamdi Kanu is going to be released. I've been very consistent about that. And it's going to be an appeal. Stop all whatever it is. This is not the time for you now to say you want to be claiming a particular right or no particular right. and what have you. Please release this man. They are already coming. We are already seeing conversations coming from IPOB himself, Nnamdi Kanu of all people, saying that they are not responsible for certain things. Those are nice, great things to talk about. He was not saying that before. So the rudiments are there, and we can only help and appeal, especially people who are not from the Southeast, and say, look, fear is fear. Right time that we get a political solution. Mr. President, please do the needful.
All right, so let's just take your parting shot now, and then we'll come back to the barristers. We're running out of time.
My parting shot?
You could merge the two conversations.
My parting shot is that Nigeria is complex. Nigeria is not equitable. Do your 2027 elections and repeat it, and we go through the same path of people splitting their votes, come back and begin to point finger at INEC, point finger at judges, point finger at judges.
If INEC does what it needs to do,
okay,
Nigerians would.
You are right, but I am making a point to you here.
No problem.
That if INEC does what is right, I will still find situations where people will not be satisfied. Yakubu made a statement. Throw him into gutter if you like. He made a statement that, look, in Ghana, you didn't have people crossing parties. You are in bed with this particular party today, you are in bed with that particular party, you don't have structure in this particular party today, and then you wake up and then you say you've won elections. Irrespective, I think we should face the truth. The process should improve. I'm not saying INEC in the last election lost the confidence of Nigerians on the Beavers or no Beavers thing. Without adequate explanations, it went to court. There are some times when you lose because you are going to win the other day and not destroy and begin to throw stones in your country. And that is what I'm saying. Throw stones in your country and say every other country is better than yours.
Mr. Is it a problem of moving from one party to the other? Is it a problem? Because we had a Muhammad Buhari that moved from APP to CPC to APC, yet he won election.
I said in Nigeria, unlike what we had in Ghana, I was also trying to comparison. This is exactly what you are saying, exactly what Mahmoud has said.
No, but what Mahmoud is contradicting himself. No. Buhari did it and he won election.
No.
And he ruled for 8 years.
He said they didn't in Ghana that people were not jumping from party to party.
No, he didn't say that's the reason they won or lost election.
That's the reason why the election was won.
You know why Buhari? You know why Buhari won elections?
Why?
You don't know why Buhari won elections? Because within the PDP itself, there was split.
All right,
the G5,
all right,
G6, G7 governors.
Well, thank you very much
and was not able to put that
for your thoughts there.
Thank you very much.
Barrister, your concluding thoughts now.
Moses, Nigeria is not complex. It is the leadership that has messed up Nigeria. You are not as complex as America. There is no ethnic group in this whole wide world that you cannot find inside America. Remember when they were doing their visa lottery? Every continent, every country was invited into America within that period. So, is that not enough complexity? We are not complex. It's just that individual leadership, when they come, they start playing ethnic card. That is the problem. And instead of you to sanction those who are almost and always doing this thing, they will shift it behind and start blaming you, who is the victim. Moses, you were here. You saw what Anoba said against the Igbos. You saw what even Wole Soyinka said. You saw what Fade Kayode said. Even Doyo Ogugbe. Even Bayo Nonoga. Even what M. Oluomo did here. Please, did you see any retaliation from the Southeast? As to say, oh, so these are what you are doing to our people in your state, have you? Okay, we'll wait for the people. Did you see such a thing? We are above that. I keep saying it here that if every other tribal or ethnic group should meet the Igbo man halfway, Nigeria will be paradise. Anybody who will come and say that we are also doing our own, what our own? We have gone all the whole country. There is no place you can't find an Igbo man. But there are some ethnic groups you cannot find in certain places in Nigeria today. They can't go there. But the Igbo man goes. Please, how else do you define patriotism and love for your country? Look at how much you are contributing in Lagos State here. Mention any place in the Southeast where you find a large number of Yorubas or Hausa contributing to the economy of the Southeast. Mention one place. You can't find any. But look at what we are getting in return. Please, is it fair? That's what I that it is people that make this thing complex.
Oh, okay.
It's not complex. It is people. Yes, I don't mention. I give the examples here. Okay. Imagine if we are retaliated in Moses.
So you agree it's complex?
It's not. It's not. I thought it's not. It's not complex.
I thought you said people.
I said it's not. Yeah, those people should be called out. Because they are the ones spoiling our content.
So people sorry, Mr. King.
No, sorry. One of them even threatening Tinubu. What was that for? Moses, and nobody talked to him. Nobody. But let such a thing happen in Southeast Asia. He will come and talk about it.
Nobody.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Arrest him for doing that. Arrest him.
Darlington.
If it was an Igbo man, would you keep quiet like that?
Thank you for your
Would you arrest him?
Well,
so that's what we are saying here.
Barrister Darlington. Barrister Darlington.
We are the most people tribe in Nigeria. We are the most people.
This is where
take it or leave it.
Okay. Well, this is where we have to drop anchor on the program today. Well, Nigerians, guys, you want to? Okay. Oh well. On behalf of my colleagues, Chukwuma Okoro, Fina Okechukwu, I am Moses Humphrey saying Nigeria should take a cue from Ghana. Actually, learn a few things from Ghana, and the electorates as well should ensure. The electorates should ensure that they educate themselves enough. I do recall that there was a time where Ghanaians rejected bags of rice being given to them by politicians. So I think Nigerians should also, find a way, learn a few things, and stand their ground when it comes to electing whoever they feel is the right person to govern the country. Well, that's it on the show. Stick around. At 9 o'clock, it will be newspaper review. Bye for now.